So up until now, our local real estate market has been in a seller's market over the past decade. And today we will actually uncover some of the latest market changes we are seeing in our local real estate market. Now, if you want to stick around towards the end, I will also share with you the most recent news on California's foreclosure changes. I'm Harold Powell. I'm a local real estate agent here in Ventura, California. And if you're new to the channel and are interested in all things real estate for Ventura and the surrounding areas, well, I suggest hitting the subscribe, like, and bell icon to be notified of future content. Now, before I really go any further, wanted to share a couple things for our neighbors to the south of us that have experienced the catastrophic fire devastation. I want to share that if you know someone who's been displaced, our property management team offers furnished short-term and long-term accommodations, and the team is dedicated and ready to assist those in need. So you can go to www.stayvcrentals.com, and I'll have a link to this site in the description below. Secondly, if you know of homeowners that have been affected by the fires down south, they also may be eligible for tax relief, property tax relief, if your property is damaged or destroyed by calamity such as fire. And in order to qualify, you must file an application for reassessment using Form ADS-820, which is the property damaged or destroyed by misfortune or calamity form. And you'll file that with the assessor's office within 12 months from the date the property was damaged or destroyed. And the loss must exceed $10,000 of its current market value. I will also put a link to that tax form in the description below for LA County. Let's get started and take a look at 3 different price ranges and the different market conditions that we are seeing in each category. The 3 price ranges I want to take a look at are the 1 million or less range, the second is the 1 to 2 million range, and the third is the 2 million or more price point. Now, as we take a look at the 1 million or less price range, it's really not surprising that this has the lowest months of inventory based on pending sales compared to the other 2 categories. There are a couple reasons for this. We look at the supply and demand graph. You can see that December had 230 pending sales with an inventory of 404 properties in this range. And this equates to about 1.8 months of inventory based on pending sales. This ratio tells us just how fast properties are selling in each month. And the definition of a seller's market is 1 to 3 months of inventory. So this price range is still experiencing a seller's market. And this means there is pricing strength for sellers, and you will likely see steady appreciation given the demand in this range, even while we have rates close to 7%. Additionally, if rates end up heading back down to the low 6% range, then it will likely even get more competitive for buyers in this category. So to put this in perspective, a 1% drop in the interest rate is equivalent to reducing the home price by 10 to 15%, which means more buyers can afford to buy the same house, which drives up pricing. Now, the good news for buyers now is when you take a look at the graph and compare the inventory based on pending sales for 2024, it actually ranged from 1 to 1.5 months of inventory for the entire year. And now we're starting off the year with 1.8 months of inventory, means that you will have more options to choose from and potentially competing with fewer buyers. Now, it will be interesting to see just how long this trend will continue for 2025, or if a drop in interest rates will cause more demand to enter the marketplace. Now, if you are a seller looking to move up, you will have a good buyer pool to draw from to purchase your home, and will likely have an easier time finding a property locally if you are looking to move up into the next price point range of 1 to 2 million. So let's take a look at the 1 to 2 million price point. For the 1 to 2 million range, the months of inventory based on pending sales is 3.4 months of inventory, which is significantly higher than the 1 million or less range. Once again, we see that the end of the year has seen the highest months of inventory based on pending sales. Now, as I mentioned, that the 1 to 3 months of inventory is considered a seller's market, the 3 to 6 months is regarded as a balanced market. So this price range has really technically just entered a balanced market, which just means buyer and seller are a little bit more on equal footing when it comes to negotiating price and other items. Now, as we look at this graph over the past year, the inventory levels have hovered between 1.4 to 2.6 months of inventory, which means it was a seller's market, and now it is considered a little more balanced market. Now, I do suspect that this range may hover back and forth between balanced and seller's market, and likely drop back into a seller's market if and when rates drop back closer to 6%. Now, in the meantime, if you are a move up seller from the 1 million range, you should have a much easier time finding a replacement property with a seller willing to accept the contingency of your home closing in escrow. Most sellers, however, will not likely accept an offer from a buyer who needs to sell a home and is not under contract, but again, will likely consider your offer if it is under contract. All right, let's move on to the 2 million or more. So what is interesting to see in the 2 million or more price point is that the inventory levels are at 6.3 months of inventory based on pending sales. And the classic definition of a buyer's market is when you hit 6 months or more of inventory. So we are beginning to see a buyer's market here. So you could say sellers are competing for the buyer as a general rule. Now, there are other insights to point out as well. When we take a look at the graph, we definitely see larger swings in months of inventory here. And as you look over this past year, we saw months of inventory levels range from the low of 3.5 months to as high as 9.4 months. So that's nearly 6 month swing in inventory levels. It also means this market is fluctuating between a balanced market and a buyer's market. Secondly, the higher months of inventory were predominantly in the winter months. So if you are selling in this price range, well, there is much more likely this market time is going to be needed and patience when selling in this range. And if you are a buyer, you'll generally have more things to pick and choose from and unlikely be competing with other buyers for the same property. Which also means if you're a buyer selling your property, you will have a much easier time getting your offer accepted with the contingency of closing on the sale of your home. Now, I have been asked, will the fires down south affect our market as far as market demand? And I will say that we may see some buyers that have the flexibility to work remotely and enter our marketplace to either buy or rent. I suspect a large percentage of people impacted will try to find housing to their home base if possible, especially if they have to commute. But if there's nothing available, then the search radius will likely expand into areas further out, such as Ventura, Camarillo, or even Oxnard. We may not fully know the initial impact for maybe another month while people figure out what they are going to do. All right, let's address the foreclosure changes that went into effect January 1st, 2025 for property of 1 to 4 units. Under the current California law, the time frame when a notice of default is recorded to the scheduled trustee sale is approximately 110 days. Now, since 2021, the earliest a notice of default can be filed is 120 days after the loan becomes delinquent. With the addition of AB 2424, this law requires an additional 40 days beyond the scheduled date of sale if the trustee receives a listing agreement from the trustor or the seller at least 5 days before the scheduled date of sale. This is a one-time postponement. Additionally, after that, you actually will be also granted another 45 days if you have a valid purchase agreement that you give to the trustee within 5 days again before the sale date. So you'll have now a total of 90 additional days. So this is also a one-time postponement. So when you add up the postponements and the time requirements, the borrower has now up to 320 days from the default date to get the property sold. So this law may prove very helpful to those in financial distress or those having to sell a property with reverse mortgages, knowing that they will have some additional time to be able to sell an inherited property. Well, if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks again.